Hey everyone, Cosmos here from Doll Games. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the ODIN's skills and the skill selection, specifically to do with Time Portal. And my character is blitzing now, so it's a good time to go over this. So I'm also gonna of course open the other skills and we can talk about them and which is the best selection of them. So currently, as you see, my skills are the ones which are shown here below. We got the Devour Soul, it hits and heals. Then we have the strong healing, 75%, very strong healing, but 500 awakening for regular battles, but for Time Portal it doesn't matter. But for Time Portal what does matter is that it has a 45-second cooldown, which is actually very long cooldown. It's kind of similar to the Delphic Apocalypse Judgment here, Light and Dark. It also has 45-second cooldown, so normally this one is seen as like, you know, the strongest skill that Odin has, but I actually prefer the Delphic Endless Engulf a lot more than that. This one has 400% damage, and it says that it hits the one with the lowest HP, but for Time Portal it doesn't matter because you're having one-on-one battles. And so my favorite is the Delphic Endless Engulf because for some reason I have a feeling that it actually does more damage. Numerically it says that it does 360%, so versus 400%. So normally this the 400% Apocalypse Judgment should do more damage. Of course, if it crits, it will definitely do more damage. But the good thing with the Endless Engulf is that it has only 15-second cooldown. So this is very different if we look at Hecate, who also has, so she's also dark, and she also has that skill, but here it's 45-second cooldown. But if you take it on the merged version, then it becomes a 15-second cooldown. So I have no idea if that's a bug or not. It's like this, so I'm going to do the guide based on what it is. So with the 15-second cooldown, it's a great skill to one of the great skills to begin your battle with. And so, additionally, it also has this 50% chance to deal 50% base damage to the target each turn for 5 turns. It's kind of like a bleed, but like not a guaranteed bleed, I guess. But it's still a bleed. So if you take that into account together with the damage difference, then you could say it's kind of the same damage, but its cooldown is at 15 seconds. But in any case, whatever your preference is, I guess you will have to take both of these because in Time Portal the awakening points don't matter, and so you do want to hit really hard. But let's have a look at some more skills and then we'll discuss. Then we have the Heavenly Buddy, Light and Dark, reduces damage taken by 60%, so it's a damage reduction shield for 3 turns. And those are my active skills. And now, important thing for places like the Time Portal is that even though you don't have awakening points, you do have all the cooldowns. So if you take all the best skills, let's say best in quotation marks, let's say all the 500 point awakening point skills, then you'll cast them and then you'll have nothing to do. So you want to manage the time. So on this skill I have 15 seconds, on this skill I have 15 seconds, these two are at 45 seconds and this one is at 30 seconds. And even with this, there are still sometimes cases where I have to do an auto attack. Of course you want to try to avoid doing auto attack as much as possible, but you don't want to be like really scared of doing an auto attack. So on purpose, let's say canceling a strong skill or taking another skill instead, a faster skill but a weaker skill. In some cases that works well, in others not. Alright, passives. I have decreased damage received by 20%, I have damage dealt increases by 15%, and I have decreased damage received by 20%. There are players who will say that they prefer more offense, so they would take, even if the percentage would be a bit smaller, they'd prefer to have increases damage dealt, passives. and that's a choice. What I do is what I prefer is I take the highest percentage available of whichever type there is. So if I have a choice between 15% increased damage and 20% or 25% damage reduction, I'll take the damage reduction. But if I have the damage percentage bigger, I'll take that. So because both of them are beneficial. Like if the boss gets angry and you don't have damage reduction, then you won't survive very long to dish out the damage. If you have a lot of damage reduction, then you will not have enough damage output to kill the boss. So it's always a trade. Alright, let's look at some other skills. This one was also something I tested with, I played around with. It's also a very interesting skill. Consumes 500 awakening points for time portal, doesn't matter. To deal 185% damage to multiple enemies, so it's good against a group, and converts 100% of the damage to HP. Now that is versus the Devour Soul, which converts 40% of the damage. So of course 100% is like significantly more than 40%, but the damage figure is smaller. So in this case it's 265% damage, and then 40% of that is healed. And in this case it's 185% damage and 100% of that is healed. Still, this one will, the Delphic Light of Inspiration will give you more healing. I've tested it out. I thought that the Devour Soul, because it does a lot more damage, would give equivalent healing, but no, the Light of Inspiration actually does give you more healing. But the problem with this one is it has a 45-second cooldown. That's a huge disadvantage versus the 15-second cooldown of the Devour Soul. And it actually doesn't hit very hard. So if you take a lot of things that heal you, then you just won't do enough damage. Then the boss will get angry and he'll kill you. So you need to balance out your damage. You need healing, of course, but you need to balance out your damage output as well. So this one I have, this one I have. Now this one deals 210% damage to all enemies and restores 20% of health. So another great skill. It's an AoE damage plus heal. But if you compare this again with the Devour Soul, because everything is like an opportunity cost. So if you take this, then you won't take that. So that's why we compare. So the Devour Soul again will do 265% versus the 210%, so it will hit a little bit harder, although not a huge difference. And the healing can be the healing is probably more than the Devour Soul with the 20% of HP versus the 40% of the damage. So but the problem with this skill is the cooldown. 45 seconds. With the 45 seconds, what I've seen is, and I've done a lot of time portal battles, you basically get to cast them twice. So for example, this Delphic right here, if I cast it somewhere in the beginning of the battle, then I will get a chance to cast it one more time before the battle finishes, with either losing or winning, doesn't matter, just in the time that there is before the boss gets really mad, kills you, or you kill the boss. You really have just 2 times the ability to cast in the whole battle, and assuming that you cast it somewhere in the beginning, you can cast the 45-second skills twice. So whereas the other ones, of course, you can do a lot more. So that's the problem with this skill. If these had lower cooldowns, I'd definitely consider using them instead of, for example, Devour Soul. The healing is definitely significant. You could also get rid of something strong like this, Syllabus Blessing. 75% healing is just fantastic. It heals like almost your entire life. But you could consider getting rid of this and replacing that with a damage dealing skill if those cooldowns were lower. Because then you'd get that healing a little bit, but you'd also do damage, whereas here you're actually losing an entire turn because it's a non-damage skill. So then here's the Syllabus Blessing. Oh, I didn't take simply because it's a damage skill. It's a pure damage skill, 271%, and that's it. so it's good damage, no problem, but the Delphics do more damage than that, and this one has a tiny little bit less damage, but it heals as well. So that's the reason why I didn't select O. And then Divine Prayer. In general cases, in other places in the game, it's a good skill to equip because it increases. First of all, it does good damage, 250%. It also is it's an almost AOE, so in that sense, it's also good. And it increases the damage the enemy receives. So if you're with a team, that's a great skill to cast. You put this on, it's kind of like a half of a damnation, something like that. So for other situations, it's a good skill, not for this situation. Then you have the light arrow. It's a more of a noobish skill, so 185% almost AOE. Not really a good skill, but it does have a fast cooldown. So for AOE cases, that's good, I guess. And then this one is something I used before, Holy Vow. It's a very interesting skill. So it does 40% healing, so kind of like half of this one, half of Helios, but it also increases crit rate by 30% for 3 turns. Another way of reading this is you get a big heal, and then the 3 turns after that, if you're doing attacks, you will do, I don't want to say 30% more damage because it's not it, but just for the ease of discussion, let's say it is kind of like that, because of course unless the Sylph has some crit properties, then there is a lot less crit happening in these Sylph battles. And so when this one switches on, then skills like Delphic Apocalypse Judgment and Delphic Endless Engulf can hit a lot stronger. So that's why I say it can be read as kind of like you heal and for the next 3 turns increase damage by 30%. So that's why it was the first skill in my set that I tried to play Time Portal with, and I was actually happy with it. The problems with it that I had, which is why I decided to change it, is first of all, it's got this 45-second cooldown, so you get to use it twice. Then as the battles go, it makes you not flexible. That was my main issue with it. Sometimes you need to heal like now, and then you have to use this skill, but your damage skills are not ready, so you need to prepare the timing so that you have 3 damage skills, at least 2, but ideally 3 damage skills ready right after this one, so that you can benefit from this crit rate increase. And if you've already used your damage skills and the boss hits you and you really need to heal, you cannot wait anymore, then you're forced to use this and then end up doing auto attacks with the crit increase. That's a kind of a waste. So and because of situations like that, I abandoned this skill and I went for Syllabus Blessing instead. I think the main competitor of Syllabus Blessing is definitely Holy Vow, because the damage increase allows you to kill the boss faster, which means you don't need as much healing, and so that's the logic behind it. Then of course we had Delphic Endless Engulf, we talked about that, and then we have the Devil's Gaze. This is a wonderful skill against anybody who tries to heal, and if you're stuck against a boss anywhere in the game, or a player who heals too much, this is a fantastic skill. It just cuts their healing in half for 3 turns. It's really great, and it has a low cooldown and high damage, well, decent damage, 280%. So I like this skill a lot in many other cases, but not Time Portal, because there are only a couple of bosses that put healing there, and that healing is not so significant. So it's kind of like more Santoria type of a healing, although you can cut that in half as well, but you also need to heal yourself. And if the damage was higher, perhaps I would take it for Time Portal, or if it had some kind of a healing aspect, but I prefer this skill for other parts of the game. Then we have Haunt, so this one dispels buffs. There can be some cases where it's useful, but I'm not using it. and this is the first noob skill. We're not gonna talk about that. So let's look at passives next. There's a whole bunch of passives for light and dark to pick from. So we have Agoran Shield. I have that, decreases damage by 20%. Then the damage dealt, I have that. And then let's see what I don't have. So I could have damage received minus 15. So that's 20. That damage increase, that's damage decrease. So I have 2 decreases but by 20%. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't take 15, because this 15 and this 15 percentage wise are the same. So if the percentage is the same, I personally always prefer offense, like attack. So I will always take the damage increase if the percentage is the same. So that's the reason I didn't take that. So that's 15. That's exactly the same as this. After there was a change in the game, these skills were doing other things, and then everything was changed into these damages. And so that's why it looks a bit weird now. Why are there these kind of skills or this kind of texts? It's because the skills used to do other things in the past, and then there was a change in the game. Alright, then Divine Wrath, and which increases reduces awakening point, has no meaning in Time Portal. Then the various healing skills, which some people like. 10% chance, and you can pile them up depending on which Sylph you're using. If you have like 3 of these, then you have an increased chance of healing. But again, I have done some analysis on my blog related to that, and I don't like those skills for myself. This used to be my favorite skill in the past before some changes. All damage received minus 15 was one of the best skills in the past. Not anymore. Again, awakening points, healing. This one I have, and then this one has no meaning for Time Portal. So let's look at the last 3. We have damage dealt increased by 10%, and then we have another 10% damage increase, and then chance to receive a positive buff after each attack. Damage increases by 20% for 3 turns. That is something that some people choose to use. It's hard to say if it's something I would go for. Basically, I look at it as an opportunity cost. So this one, each turn you get this chance to get this redeeming light. So if you get this redeeming light, then you get 20% damage increase for 3 turns. After 3 turns it goes away, regardless if you have another one or not. And so if you compare that to something else, like what could I drop? For example, let's say I drop one of the 20% damage increases. If let's say I'm thinking to I need more damage, let's say like that, and instead of the 10% I want to go for the 20% with a chance. Let's say if I drop one of the 20% damage received, then I'm gonna start receiving 20% more damage roughly. And so if I take this skill, then if it activates, great, I have my damage increase. If it doesn't activate, I have 0, whereas the other ones are guaranteed. So I that's why I prefer more the guaranteed benefits. It does activate, it's not like really rare, it does activate during the battle, so but it's not a permanent effect, let's say like that. Let me know if somebody is using it, and if somebody likes it, put down in the comments what are your reasons or experience with this skill. I must admit I don't have a huge experience with this skill. I just didn't like it compared to the ones I have. I didn't want to sacrifice any of these 3 to go for this one. So there you have it. So then, as to finish up, the last thing is just some sequence information. So in a battle, traditionally what I do is I either would start with the Delphic Endless Engulf or Devour Soul. Both of these have 15 seconds cooldown, and the choice between which one you start with depends on if your health is full or not. Basically, if your health is not full, I suggest start with Devour Soul. You get an immediate healing, and it's the first skill to get ready next. And if your health is full, go with the Delphic Endless Engulf to dish out the damage. After which you would do the Delphic Apocalypse, and then you would do the Devour Soul, and by the time you finish the Devour Soul, the Endless Engulf is ready. Or vice versa, if you start with Devour Soul, then you would do Endless Engulf, then you would do Apocalypse Judgment, and by the time you do Apocalypse Judgment, then the Devour Soul is ready. The Helios Blessing, although it's a powerful skill, I try to never use it. In a lot of cases, I just don't use this skill. This is my emergency, I'm dying kind of a skill. I try to get my healing through Devour Soul. I try to cast it as much as possible, keeping that cooldown running all the time. And I even prioritize that versus other skills so that I can get that healing through. The Heavenly Body is in a way more powerful than the Helios Blessing. 75% looks amazing, but 60% damage reduction is a lot more health than 75% healing. If the boss is angry, let's say, and he's dishing out a lot additional damage, if you use Helios Blessing and fill your health up, he could bring your health to 50% or near to 0 in 1 or 2 hits. Whereas if you don't heal up and you put Heavenly Body, you can take 3-4 hits probably, and you can still use Helios Blessing under this shield. So this shield is amazing. I tested before playing without the shield, with having I think I had Light of Inspiration instead of Heavenly Body, and that didn't work out so well. I perform a lot better with Heavenly Body, and in 90% of cases I never use Helios Blessing because I prioritize Devour Soul, and I see Helios Blessing as a disadvantage because when you cast it, you don't do damage. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to dish out as much damage as possible so that the boss dies faster and he doesn't have a chance to get angry and hit me hard when I would need to use Helios Blessing. So this is, as I mentioned, my emergency skill. So I think that's it, you guys. So that was a discussion on ODIN's skills for Time Portal specifically. Let me know what you think about it. What skill selection do you prefer, or do you have? And if you're using other skills than mine, if you disagree with any of my advice or tips, no problem. Just present your case and in your arguments, and everybody can benefit from it. So if you enjoyed the video, please do click on like and subscribe. It always helps. Also helps if you share with friends, and if also helps if you can disable ad block on my blog, because the ad revenue helps to pay for the costs. And if you want to play short games and sometimes just you have a short amount of time, visit dollygames.com. It's my gaming portal. There's tons of free short games to play. So it's a great thing, and you can also subscribe there on a free newsletter which will notify you about new games. And all other links will be in the description below. For those people who enjoy and like my work, also please consider to support me via Patreon. That way I can have monthly support, which helps to pay the various costs that I have. So that's it, you guys. Thanks for watching and have a very nice day.